All right, let's jump right in. We spend so much time and energy thinking about the inside of our homes, right? The paint, the furniture, the floors. But today, we're going to look up. We're talking about the single most important thing protecting all that stuff you love, your roof. It's truly the unsung guardian of your home, and we are going to give it the attention it absolutely deserves. You know, I love this quote because it just hits the nail on the head. A great roof does its job silently, day in and day out, giving you total peace of mind. It's only when things go wrong, when you see that dreaded water spot, that you're forced to think about it. And by then, trust me, you're usually looking at a much bigger and way more expensive problem. So let me just ask you, straight up, when you think about what keeps your home safe, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it the locks on the doors? Maybe an alarm system? Well, what if I told you the most critical shield was something else entirely? You guessed it, it's your roof. It is constantly under assault from the elements. It's your home's first, and honestly, its last line of defense against everything Mother Nature decides to throw its way. So in this first part, we're going to lay the groundwork and really establish why your roof is so fundamental to your home's health, its safety, and yeah, even its basic structural integrity. Now, to really appreciate what your roof does, you kind of have to understand its enemies. And what better way to do that than by using the extreme weather we see in Central Texas as a perfect case study? It really shows you the relentless forces that every roof has to fight off. First on the list, the heat. I mean, in places like Texas, you're looking at summer temps well over 100 degrees, day after day. That intense, baking sun literally cooks the asphalt shingles. It makes them brittle, causes them to crack, and just generally accelerates the aging process like you wouldn't believe. Next up, the wind. And we're not talking about a gentle breeze here. High winds create these powerful uplift forces that are constantly prying at the edges of your roof, trying to find a weak spot. And once the wind gets under just one shingle, it can set off a chain reaction, peeling back whole sections and compromising the entire system. And then there's hail. This is just pure brute force impact. Hailstones literally pummel the roof, bruising the shingles and creating these tiny microfractures. Now, the crazy thing is, this damage might not cause a leak right away, but what it does do is create a weak spot that's guaranteed to fail years before the rest of the roof ever would. And through all of this, there's this invisible stress that's happening constantly. It's called thermal cycling. Just picture it. It's cool in the morning, then blazing hot in the afternoon. All day long, your roofing materials are expanding in the heat and shrinking as they cool down. That constant movement, day after day, week after week, it just fatigues the material. It's like bending a paperclip back and forth until it breaks. And to give you some perspective on just how tough these roofs have to be, get this. In a lot of storm-prone areas, modern building codes demand that new roofing systems can withstand winds of up to 110 miles per hour. That takes some serious engineering, and even more importantly, a very specific installation process. Okay, so we've established that roofs take an absolute beating, but what does that actually mean for you, the homeowner? Well, in this next section, we're going to talk about how to spot the early warning signs of trouble. Think of it like learning to speak your roof's language, so you can hear it when it's trying to tell you something's wrong. I mean, this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? You really don't want to find out you have a roof problem when water is literally dripping into your living room. The secret is knowing what to look for before it ever gets to that point. All right, so here are the big things to keep an eye out for, and you can spot most of these from the ground. Shingles that are curling up at the edges or look like they're blistering, that's a classic sign of old age and heat damage. Next time you clean your gutters, look for a bunch of what looks like black sand. Those are the granules from your shingles, their productive layer, washing away. Of course, water stands on the ceiling are a huge red flag. A sagging roof deck, that could point to a serious structural problem. Oh, and pay close attention around pipes and chimneys, and look for what we call nail pops. That's where a nail has pushed its way back up through a shingle. Any one of these is a sign to call in a pro. So let's talk about the roof itself. It's so easy to think of a roof as just that top layer you see from the street, the shingles. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. A modern roof is actually this complex, integrated system where every single part has a critical job to do. Okay, so it all starts with the foundation, what we call the decking. That's the wood base. Then, on top of that, you have the underlayment. This stuff is so important. It's your secondary water barrier for any rain that might get blown up under the shingles. Then comes the main event, the shingles themselves, the primary armor. And finally, and this is one that gets overlooked all the time, the ventilation system. It lets your attic breathe, pushing out the hot, moist air that can literally rot your roof from the inside out. Now, when we talk about that outer armor, you've got choices. The two most common players in the game are asphalt shingles and metal roofing. Here's the breakdown. Asphalt has a lower upfront cost and will typically last you about 15 to 25 years. Metal, it costs more to start for sure, but it can last 40, 50, even 70 years or more. And when it comes to getting hit by things like hail, metal is excellent, while some of the high-end asphalt shingles, what they call Class 4, also offer really, really good protection. It's that classic trade-off, initial cost versus long-term performance. Look, knowing all this stuff is fantastic, but you can have the best, most expensive materials on the planet, and they will fail if they're not installed correctly. And that brings us to what is probably the single most important decision you'll make in this whole process: choosing the right contractor. You need a real pro in your corner. Think of this checklist as your secret weapon. You want to look for contractors who have certifications from the manufacturer. That means they've actually been trained to install that specific system. You absolutely have to ask about their workmanship warranty, which is what covers you if they make a mistake during installation. But what you really need to pay attention to are the red flags. Anyone pressuring you to sign a contract on the spot? Run. Anyone demanding all the money up front before the work even starts? Huge red flag. And if anyone offers to waive your insurance deductible, which, by the way, is illegal, you show them the door. A true pro will be totally transparent and happy to answer all your questions. So let's bring this all home. The most important thing I want you to take away from all this is the need for a little shift in your mindset. Stop thinking of your roof as just another household expense you have to deal with when it breaks. Start thinking of it as an active system that protects your single biggest investment, your home. And this is how you do it: proactive maintenance. And don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. It just means getting a professional inspection every now and then, maybe once a year, and taking care of any small repairs right away. This simple habit can stop a tiny issue from snowballing into a catastrophic failure. It'll make your roof last longer, and it will save you a ton of money in the long run. And if you need any more convincing, just look at the numbers. This chart spells it out perfectly. A small preventative repair? That's a relatively minor cost. Having to wait until you need a full replacement, that's a major expense. But waiting so long that your failed roof has also caused thousands of dollars in water damage inside your house, that's the financial nightmare scenario. A little bit of prevention goes a long, long way. So I'll leave you with this one final question to think about. Right now, at this very moment, is your roof an asset, a well-maintained shield that's actively protecting your home's value? Or is it a neglected liability, just one big storm away from becoming a massive problem? The choice and the power to change that is entirely yours.